Welcome to the Social Impact Ireland Business for Social Incubator Spring Showcase. I'm Richard Lynch and welcome to the 7th edition of our programme and our biggest to date. Get ready to meet Ireland's most amazing social entrepreneurs, all who have completed the 6-month incubator programme. The theme for this showcase is building towards a more inclusive society. And when you meet these participants, I think you're going to agree that the integrity, dedication, strength and drive is abundant in this group. You will also hear from some amazing guest speakers, all who are working to build a more inclusive society. First up, let's meet Pauline Gannon, the co-founder of Social Impact Ireland.
Thank you, Richard, for that lovely introduction. I have a couple of words that I just want to show you all, and it kind of sets the stage for everything that today is really about in the essence of today. They're just some of the words that stood out for us here at Social Impact Ireland as we delivered our startup incubator and supported the founders to prepare and strengthen their businesses for future growth. A socially inclusive society is one in which all people have the best opportunity to live to their full potential, enjoy life, and to prosper. As society begins to open up again, and as we each look forward to getting back to a sense of the way things were, a place that we know, we need to also stop momentarily and decide what exactly is it that we want to go back to, and what is it that we want to move forward towards. As we all come to terms with our experiences over the last year, we need to ensure that recovering from the pandemic is about much more than reverting back to the way things were. Instead, we need to learn from the last year, learn from what it has taught us, and to re-image what do we want to be as a society. Ireland's future must be rooted in fairness and equality. It must be rooted in inclusion of all and inclusion for all. We believe that social enterprises will be central to this work. In Ireland, our social entrepreneurs continually seek to develop a more inclusive way of doing business, providing solutions and pathways through business opportunities that focus on social impact and in turn create that more inclusive, equal society. Social inclusion is about ensuring that every member of society feels empowered to be themselves in all aspects of life, celebrating individual uniqueness, celebrating the value each and every person brings to our communities, and above all else, learning from each other. I have learned so much from the founders you'll meet today in ways that I could never have anticipated, and sometimes in the simplest of ways and the simplest of interactions. But social inclusion is it's much more than just that. It generates a range of economic benefits through strengthening social networks, increasing trust, and reducing barriers for individuals to realize their potential. Everyone, all of us individuals, organizations, businesses, we all have a role to play in building a more socially inclusive society. In Ireland, our social enterprise sector proudly sits at the heart of what it means to be socially inclusive. The social enterprises we are showcasing today, they will demonstrate the ways in which They're stepping up and forward to help create the diverse and inclusive society we want to live in now and into the future. Each of these founders is playing a vital role in providing solutions, and they're shining a light on the many pathways to a more inclusive society for all. The participants you will meet today, they were chosen for our incubator based on a number of criteria, but those that come up the highest for me is their passion, their spirit, and of course their business ideas. It was only after selection that we realised that there was this theme of inclusiveness throughout. Perhaps that's a sign of the times that we're living in. Perhaps it's a highlight of the inequality still evident in society. But for me, it highlights an opportunity for us all to do our part to create a more inclusive society. And we can do this by strengthening our supports for social entrepreneurs, especially those social entrepreneurs that you will meet today. As you watch these remarkable social entrepreneurs present their businesses to you, I encourage you to think about two things. One, what can you do? What can you do to help support these businesses, no matter how big or small? What can you do to help them to keep going, support them to realize their own full potential through their social businesses? And the second thought, what can you do within your own life, personal, work, your business, to have a more positive impact that encourages inclusion? Thank you for being with us today. And I will leave you with those thoughts as I hand you back to Richard, who will introduce you to the first of our showcase participants this afternoon. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you so much, Pauline. Now, let's meet the first of our participants. It's Jack O'Connor from Moyo Nua.
This product has helped us a lot because now we are finding planting our crops much easier. In previous years, we'd have to bend over to plant our crops. It was a very tiresome job, but now we can just stand and plant as we go. To this organization, I'd like to say thank you. What they've done by creating this product has affected our lives incredibly. And I'd ask that they please do not stop any of the work that they're doing, but continue it. As you can see, our maize has grown so well thanks to the new innovative planting material. We have all benefited immensely.
I know this tool, and what I like about this tool is that it's lighter than a hoe. It makes planting really fast. This is because as you're making the holes for the seeds, you're also planting the seeds at the same time, which makes it easy to cover a lot of ground. This tool has some advantages, and one of them is that you don't tire fast since you don't bend your back. Unlike when you're using a hoe, backs ache faster. This tool makes it really different and easy to do the work. I am encouraging my fellow farmers that this tool is really good to use. For example, I as an old man, I will not bend my back for a long time during planting. Go give us these tools so that we demonstrate to others. And in the end, people were interested, and it would be really good if they bring more tools.
Hi, Jack. How are you? I am so pleased to meet you. I'm so excited about learning all about your social enterprise. You're first up for the day. First of all, I just want to ask you, how does a young business studies student end up working on farms in Malawi?
It's certainly an interesting origin story. So I suppose it's always important to note that it started to be a young scientist. So rewind back to 2017, and I was in sixth year. I was like, getting ready for leaving cert. Kind of seen a couple of different documentaries and stuff that there were these issues, so far as smallholder farmers were using really poorly designed tools, like, archaic, old-fashioned tools, which just didn't really make much of it, like, didn't really make much sense to me living in West Limerick, So it's through an idea together, like, came up with a very rough prototype insofar as it was a handheld seed planter, which eliminated the need for bending over. And entered the Young Scientists, fortunate enough to get accepted, but not only that, the project ended up winning the Science of Development Award, which is sponsored by Irish Aid. Biggest part of that trip, or biggest part of that prize, was a 10-day research and development trip over to Malawi.
And tell me a little bit how you actually created the product. How did you come up with the idea?
We figured out, planting is like one thing that always has to happen for agriculture. And because these communities are so dependent on agriculture themselves, we were waiting for the kind of penny to drop to realize, like, there's 100,000 different methods, or 100,000 different handheld planters that exist in the world. And then we found, like, there was a couple out there, but call me biased, but, like, none of them were really effective enough. Like, none of them were accessible, simple, or none of them really did the job that we wanted to do.
And how does one product, like the one product you created, have such an impact on a community?
The planter for the farmer, it did the first job, which like eliminate the need for bending over. So, reducing that labor intensity. There's a room there to massively improve the effectiveness of planting. So, ensuring higher success essentially of the seed that goes into the soil, make sure that it grows up to be a nice little crop. It's and as well as that, kind of improving the speed, the efficiency of planting. So that's kind of like on the individual level, you're reducing labor intensity, you're improving effectiveness and efficiency. But wider afield, like you're talking agriculture as a whole, in Malawi it accounts for like 84%, 86% of employment, which is absolutely massive. It's very big. So, the family is very dependent on the sort of innovations as well that Moyanua looks to kind of create and build. It's and then all that kind of transforms into community-wide thing. The way the planters, the way the products have been designed, they can be made by local blacksmiths. So, like, the bamboo is locally sourced in the local village. The metal is sourced by the local blacksmith and, like, created by the blacksmith themselves. In areas where there may not be an abundance of electricity, or, you may have to, like, walk to the well to get water. I'm talking, like, resource poor, some of the least developed communities in the world.
And tell me a little bit about how you're going to scale up the project, Jack. I mean, what are the challenges that are going to be involved in you scaling up this project to another level?
We had to test everything. We were testing the prototype to see if it worked first and foremost. And, like, there was a couple of iterations that were made on the ground there. We had to test, like, the distribution model. We had to test the manufacturing model. The whole supply chain was being tested. And, like, the partnerships, like, with the likes of Go Global, with our funding partners, with our clients that we operate with as well. It was a big melting pot, like a major test in which none of these things were kind of intuitive. None of these things were guaranteed to work. Probably with a stroke of luck as well, that everything kind of fell together at the same time, and it all kind of worked on harmoniously. And kind of from that, then that's kind of formed the basis for the scale up, insofar as it can work in the least developed community. It can work in one of the most resource poor areas. Now it's just a matter of, like, scaling that up.
Wow. And are there other opportunities for further products that you see? I'm sure you're identifying gaps in the marketplace as you're going, knowing you.
Like, the one I always kind of earmark and I want to focus on next is a bamboo fertilizer. So when we're using the bamboo for our products, the leaves are offcut. They're essentially waste product, and they get used and all that sort of stuff. But if they could be made into a fertilizer, it'd be really fantastic for the community, because fertilizer, as well as, like, these tools, or, like, tools in general, they're not generally accessible because they just haven't been innovated. They haven't been looked at from a very pragmatic point of view. So by using our waste product to make these fertilizers, can make it a lot more readily available. And that kind of ties into the zero waste, which I want to kind of achieve with Moyanua.
And you're environmentally conscious as well. That is amazing. I am literally blown away by you. I can't believe you're only 22. Can I ask you, how has working with Social Impact Ireland changed your life?
It's been the most important thing for Moyanua. Kind of realized, okay, there's a significant need here, and now you have to start acting on that need. So just being able to work with the guys in the community, like within the Social Impact Ireland, like the other members of the cohort, but as well as that, the managing team. And sometimes it's as simple as, like, dropping a text or, like, jumping on a call saying, look, here's the problem. I have no idea what to do. I am lost. And, just being vulnerable with that as well, because, like, everybody would kind of have shared experiences. But, like, I can safely say, would not be ready for scale up if it wasn't for SII. So, massively appreciate that.
Oh, I'm so glad that they've helped you and that your whole social enterprise is moving forward. Jack, you should be so proud of yourself. You are an amazing young person. Congratulations. I'm rooting for you, and I hope I get to see you soon in the flesh. Take care. Thank you so much. Next up, all the way from LA, we are going to meet the next of our participants. It's Aaliyah Levine from Seed Scholars.
La 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 yeah yeah yeah. 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 La 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 la. La 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 yeah yeah yeah. La 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 yeah yeah yeah. La 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 yeah yeah yeah. La 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 la. La 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 yeah yeah yeah.
Hi Leah, how are you? It's so nice to meet you. I'm thrilled to be talking to you today. First off, I know you're from LA. What brought you from LA to Westmeath?
It does come down to love. I met my partner in California 11 years ago, and now we're here. And since then, I've fallen in love with the landscape and the culture and the people, and it's been really fascinating as a primary school teacher and as a nature educator since moving here to compare and contrast the soil and the climate and the natural heritage and all of these amazing things.
Oh my God, I'm so happy you found love. Your enterprise is about reconnecting kids to natural environment. Are you doing it because you grew up in LA?
As a kid growing up in Los Angeles, I really thought that a carrot started and ended as the little baby carrots you see in the store. I didn't have a sense of growing food, but once I did realize how food was grown and how nature is so connected from the insects to the plants to the mammals and with humans, I had to try to share that with young people. And especially since seeing statistics like the one from the Royal Society of Protection of Birds from the UK that recognize that 4 out of 5 young people are disconnected from nature, and also seeing all the research from ecopsychology and from forest therapy about the rippling well-being benefits of being in nature for young people and how that helps to produce climate active global citizens.
Wow, you really make me want to go out and hug a tree. I know you're building relationships with environmental knowledge and skills in the outdoors. How do you do this? Like, I know you do schools, home, events, festivals. How do you do it?
The primary core program of Seed Scholars happens at schools, at primary schools, where we can reach most young people, as most young people are in school for a lot of their time. So embedding this knowledge and these skill sets and learning through the curriculum so that it can happen during the school day. Wow. And it also will happen through weekend workshops with families and through additional programs to reach underserved communities as well. And working with people and young people living in direct provision centers and across different populations to make sure that this is accessible to everyone. It's always experiential, everything from more of a forest school approach all the way to garden education. So we're doing den building, we're doing fire tending, we're foraging, learning about plant and animal identification. We're also planting seeds and tending to them all the way until the harvest and enjoying them with wild cooking. So lots of engagement.
Wow, you're doing so much. This is wild. And what changes do you see in the kids that engage in the program? Like, what changes are you seeing in each one of them?
Yeah, the young people most of the time light up when they're outside. There's links to lowered blood pressure and stress hormone levels and reduced nervous system arousal, enhanced immune system, increased self-esteem, reduced anxiety, improved mood, like all of these holistic well-being factors from the social, emotional, physical, and mental levels are being attended to.
Wow, this is so amazing. You're so beautiful inside and out, by the way. To any teachers watching, what would you say to them, to all the teachers watching this?
I think teachers are heroes, so I just have to say thank you to teachers, first of all, and to all the families and everyone who's been going through COVID times and all the time. And I am here for you to support what you're already doing and to elevate the learning and to contribute in whatever ways I can and bring more nature-based experiences to you and your classes.
You're spreading joy all over the world. You're amazing. Can I ask you, what was it like to work with Social Impact Ireland? Was it? I imagine it was amazing.
I'm so grateful. I'm full of gratitude for everyone at Social Impact Ireland. It's such a loving community and such a community that's based on relationships, just like what I value in my work too. And so it really feels aligned with my work as I'm trying to value the whole child and build holistic, meaningful relationships with nature. I'm feeling the same value coming from Social Impact Ireland, and I'm full of gratitude for that.
Oh, I'm full of gratitude to you. I'm so glad I got a chance to meet you today. Thank you so much and congratulations. And I hope I see you soon. Next up, it's time to meet our next participants. It's Mary Delaney and Lisa McSherry from Trauma Responsive Education.
Trauma Responsive Education, a social enterprise committed to supporting teaching staff and schools in creating safe, trauma-responsive learning environments which are attuned to the needs of children and young people who've experienced trauma and adversity. We firmly believe that where you start from in life should not have to dictate where you end up, and in the power of education to break down barriers to societal change. We all know that a tsunami is coming as a result of the pandemic. There's been a greater level of alcohol abuse, parental separation, domestic violence, referrals to child protection. This is going to show up in our schools. Our teachers are on the front line. It's really unfair to leave them without the tools they need to deal with this. The danger is that children that otherwise would have a perfectly normal school experience are going to be affected by unmanaged trauma of other children in the classroom. This is a chain reaction. And also we can't forget the massive societal impact of this being left unchecked. We want to equip teaching staff with the framework and tools they need to work effectively and flexibly with these pupils. And in essence, we really need to shift the mindsets within the teaching communities to encourage the adoption of a more child-centred, trauma-responsive approach. All in all, this means that pupils once identified as unteachable have a much better chance at a good educational outcome.
Hi Mary, hi Lisa, how are you doing girls? So nice to meet you. I'm so glad to be talking to you today. First of all, could you explain to me exactly for the viewers what trauma means?
One way of looking at the word trauma is to think about the original Greek meaning of trauma, which is wound. So I would say that in our schools now, we have many children and actually adults that have visible or invisible wounds on a very simplistic level. But another way of looking at it is trauma is an event or any series of events that can cause you to feel physically in danger of your life or emotionally feel overwhelmed and that that danger is there. But I think it's important to also acknowledge that it's not the trauma itself that is necessarily traumatizing. It's what that impact is on you inside. And we know that if you have someone that helps you make meaning of it and to process it and understand it, the chances are the effects of that trauma will be mitigated.
Why is this demanding of teachers, young people that have experienced trauma? What demands does it make on these teachers?
For a start, it's not addressed in teacher training. And very little of it is still done in-service training once you're qualified. But also, it's hard to recognise that a child comes from a traumatic background if you don't know much about them. The way it might show up in class is they're challenging, they're disruptive, they don't engage. So that's challenging for teachers, because obviously when you're teaching a whole class and you've got these kind of behaviours, you don't know what to do or you don't understand. It can also be challenging because of the impact it has on yourself. When you're dealing with very vulnerable children and young people, there's often a kind of transference of those feelings, those emotions, and in fact, some of that trauma into yourself, which we call secondary or vicarious trauma. So some of our work is helping teachers to understand that.
Wow. And can I ask you, how does your program address this? How does your program deal with this?
So what we do is we train and support teaching staff so that they can really understand and address this trauma and its impact on teaching and learning in their classrooms. And what's different about our approach is that we help staff to look at this in a different way. We give them the tools and a framework to work with so that they can try to figure out what exactly is going on and what needs is that child trying to communicate. And once we know that, then we can put strategies in place and ultimately help the child to settle to learn. So schools and teaching staff that work with us, they get access to a range of our services. And that would include things like webinars, a webinar series that looks at the latest thinking in this area. We've got training courses based on Mari's books. We've got whole school packages that look at this as a whole school issue. We have reflective work supervision groups that look at the impact of the trauma on the teaching staff themselves. And we also have a membership model, which essentially gives staff a menu of training and support services that they can choose from.
Wow. And can you give me an example of the benefit this approach would bring? What benefits does the approach bring to the people that you work with?
Recently, we were talking to a group of teachers who had a specific issue with a 10-year-old boy who was over sharpening his pencils and taking apart pencil sharpeners to get at the blade and used that as a weapon against other children in the classroom. So it's really about talking that through with the staff, using our framework to then try to work out what exactly is this child trying to communicate to us with this behavior, and looking at it in a very different way. So for example, in this case, it seems the child may actually be just trying to connect with other children in the classroom. And once we can figure out what they need, then we have the tools and the strategies that the teaching staff can use. So what you end up with is a child who's more understood, who feels they can belong in the classroom, who can stay in mainstream education often. You've got teachers who are calmer, less stressed. They're more confident in dealing with this type of behavior in the class.
Can I ask you, whose help will be the most beneficial to you? How can people actually help your cause and your organization and move you guys along?
Something that would be hugely helpful for us is the right connections. We need to get put in front of the right people who can either fund this or who can help us find the right funders who get it and who understand not just the value of this to an individual child or to a teacher, but also the value to society. If we can stop just one child from dropping out of education, then that's a massive cost saving as well to society.
So in a nutshell, Richard, we're looking for a millionaire philanthropist, or as Bob Geldof, I'll paraphrase Bob Geldof in the 1980s, we're just saying, give us your money, we know what to do with it.
What millionaire philanthropist do I know? I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing, ladies. This is phenomenal. I am so privileged and honoured to speak to you today, and I'm wishing you both the best of luck in your enterprise, and I hope I get to see you soon. And now we're about to meet two more amazing ladies. I'm very excited to introduce our next participants. They're the O'Reilly sisters. It's Maeve and Miriam from Be Well Yoga. Hi Maeve, hi Miriam, the O'Reilly sisters in the house. Girls, so nice to meet you. You already run your own successful yoga school. Can you tell me how it came about?
I spent about 10 years working in business and corporate companies, very different to yoga. And my last corporate role was actually in a fashion company in southern Switzerland. I lived in Lake Como, and I don't know if you're aware, but Lake Como became the European hub of the refugee crisis. So there were many, many African migrants, and they found themselves kind of bottlenecked in the north of Italy, trying to get into the rest of Europe. And I had a massive turning point because I took the train from Lake Como to southern Switzerland to my job. I had to step over mothers and children who were lying on the floor of the train station in order to get to my glitzy job. So that really made me, reflect and think about my decision-making process and where I wanted to go with my life. And that's how Be Well Yoga was actually born.
Wow, Miriam. And what interests you in adding a socially impactful element to your business? How are you making this socially impactful so it helps people?
The word yoga actually comes from the Sanskrit word for connection. So yoga is really about connecting to yourself, connecting to people around you, and like connecting to your environment. Now, these days, there's a bit of an issue in that yoga is only accessible to people of a certain socio-economic bracket, really. So what we wanted to do was bring it back to its roots a little bit and make it accessible to people from maybe more vulnerable groups.
This is amazing. This is so beautiful that you're going to help people from more vulnerable groups. Can you tell me a little bit about how you went adding the social enterprise element to your overall business?
So for the last 3 years, we've built up the business. I've been able to secure the income and open a studio here in Longford. And Maeve joined the business in around a year ago now. She finished a master's in sustainability. So she learned the business at that time. And it was almost organic how her background and what she's done nearly just influenced the growth of this beautiful project and idea, which we're pushing forward on.
Sisters are doing it for themselves. Amazing, sisters. I'm loving this. What audiences are you offering this to, and how are you reaching these groups? How are you reaching your audience?
I suppose our audience is made up of asylum seekers and refugees principally, but also migrants in vulnerable categories here in Ireland. So Miriam spoke a little bit about her turning point in Italy. For me, I've worked extensively with people living in extreme poverty in Peru, and I saw firsthand just how they were living, and more importantly, two things became ingrained in me, and that was empowerment and the importance of community. And on the side of community, I think fundamentally humans need connection. We're social creatures. It's so important for our physical and our mental health, especially coming from another country, leaving everything behind. So I think both me and Miriam wanted to address the situation closer to home, and how we're reaching them through NGOs and through kind of directly talking to stakeholders at the moment. Yeah.
Maeve, you should be so proud, girls. Honestly, this is fantastic. Can I ask you, why yoga? And will it always just be yoga? Are you intending to move out into other areas?
From a social enterprise point of view, we really understand the importance of first identifying the needs of these groups rather than, implementing something that already exists. Why yoga? Because it's something that we can offer and we can shape around at the moment. But that's not to say that we might identify the needs of the group being another skill set, and we're completely open to, liaising with other schools and other companies to try to create the spaces on those courses and create the framework of the course to suit the needs.
And you, Maeve?
Why yoga? Anyone who's practiced yoga or taught yoga will tell you it gives you instant access to an open, vibrant, friendly community.
And can I ask you, what was it like to work with Social Impact Ireland? How did it help you on your journey?
by working with Social Impact Ireland, we really began to understand identifying the needs of groups, speaking with the stakeholders, and creating the teacher training course with all of those needs, you know, in mind. So it's been vital for the crystallization of the entire project, if I'm honest.
And you, Maeve?
I think there's a very frustrating period between kind of conceiving a lovely idea and bringing it into action, you know, and Social Impact Ireland was absolutely vital in kind of giving us the tools and the roadmap and just the confidence kind of to go forward towards our objectives. So it was fantastic.
Girls, wow. It's great to see two sisters working together on something so beautiful and so positive, and I'm so proud of both of you, and I'm rooting for you, and hopefully we're going to see each other soon. I really would like to meet you face to face. Thank you so much. Thanks, girls. Thank you. Now it's time to meet our first guest speaker. It's none other than Barry Lunn, a successful serial entrepreneur in a high-tech space. Barry is the CEO of Provisio, a multinational startup seeking through technology to eliminate the human cost of vehicle collisions. Over to you, Barry.
So thanks for having me, Richard and Eamon. And look, well done to everyone here for trying to make something happen, because I think that's the first step to having an impact. I'm Barry Lunn. I suppose my bio would say I'm the founder and CEO of Provisio, where we're trying to end the global pandemic that is road deaths. And I'm an angel investor in a bunch of other startups. But I suppose in real life, I'm a volunteer with a number of community organizations. I'm a coach in GAA and rugby. And I suppose the most important little startup I'm involved in growing is my own family. And Eamon Ryan has been a long time mentor to me. I suppose it's not a job he applied for or even knew he had accepted. But a lot of years later, we are where we are. And he asked me to talk to you guys today, and I suppose to talk about my path to date. And I guess it's not your typical path, but then I think none of ours are. And I suppose I've had a reasonable amount of success in business, and I've been very lucky in my personal life as well. But, you know, in honesty, it certainly wasn't easy, and I learned an awful lot of what would be considered disadvantage. And I suppose that's led to my entire outlook on life, and that's to see advantages, I suppose, where other people see disadvantage. And I suppose along that side of things as well, I try to be a decent influence on my kids and on anyone who comes along and looks for advice. And I think core to that is being honest and not to rewrite my own history, which I think is very tempting to do when you've had a decent outcome. So I'm from Limerick. I'm from an area, I suppose, that Pobble would describe as very disadvantaged. But I think what Pobble Inda says don't show is kind of that kindness and that spirit in the work, and without being trite, but working class areas can have a real kindness and spirit. And that was certainly what it was like in Carricknish, where I'm from. And I learned an awful lot about entrepreneurship watching local business people. And what they did was they built a community first and a business second. And they did counterintuitive things, like they built a credit union so other people could start competitive businesses. And when antisocial activity was an issue, they built probably one of the most impressive community centres I've seen in the country. And they did that off their own back with no one's help. And that was really impressive to grow up around. Secondary school for me was a real struggle. I was diagnosed as dyslexic later in life. But in 90s Ireland, my teachers diagnosed me with laziness. I knew I wasn't lazy. I always had a job from the age of 11. I was always working. But the stats said I was intelligent. The exam said I was failing. So the conclusion could only be that I was lazy. And that internal struggle between potential and lack of performance led to real mental health struggles for me. I dropped out of school in 5th year and again in 6th year. And I was lucky. My mum was pretty open-minded, and she got me a psychiatrist. And with her help and some meds, I found my way to sitting the leaving eventually, but not attending school this time. So long story short, I was always into making and breaking things. An engineer, I suppose, at heart, and I applied for engineering in UL, and I also applied for the art college here in Limerick, and I got both. And then my mum's influence probably came in heavily there, and she encouraged me to follow what I enjoyed, and that led me to going to the art college. And that was probably the best decision I ever made. And there aren't a lot of people, parents, especially back in the 90s, that would encourage you down that route. Art college was full of fellow left-handed, dyslexic, and messers. And messing was encouraged, and thinking different was encouraged. So it was a place I really just thrived and got to play out that part of my mindset. And it shouldn't have to be the only place you can go and do that. And I'd like to see that messing encouraged wider. I suppose I was then in a place where I could unlock the other part of my brain, and I began designing and coding websites in the 90s, and that led to software front-end development, and finally to graduating and meeting a couple of successful entrepreneurs in early 2000. And they took me on, and I learned a huge amount from them and others I met along the way. And then I traveled extensively. I lived and worked in like Australia, France, Russia, China, United States, Austria. And along the way, I suppose I moved from working in their businesses to starting and often finishing my own deep tech engineering companies. So I suppose I found an artistic route to engineering. And I think that dyslexic mindset has been a huge advantage along the way, but only once I understood it. And that was the real struggle early on. So walking that alternative path for me has helped me ignore an awful lot of the conventional advice and from the gurus and that, because I suppose they've never walked my path, and turning that back around, I suppose I've never walked your path. So, take what I say with a grain of salt. But I think also always trying to see the advantage and perceive disadvantage really helped. And what we learn from adversity, from our background, all of that, and what we pass on. So my son is dyslexic, and he sees it as a superpower. And he has that from an early age, and it's a huge advantage. So that's led me to I'm always looking out for that outlier. I'm always trying to see that multi-dimensional being, not the CV or the exam result or society's champion, because I think it's those outliers, the dreamers, as Steve Jobs would call them. They're the people I think that will change things for the better. And I suppose finally, to me, that's the advantage that's there to be unlocked in embracing diversity and inclusivity, that there's a huge amount of talent out there to be unlocked. I wish you all really well with your businesses. And listen, thanks for listening to me.
Thanks so much, Barry. That was truly amazing. You're doing Limerick proud, and I hope I get to meet you someday. Now we're going to meet our next participant. We're heading all the way to Northern Ireland to meet Rob Rossiter of Rugby Cubs NI.
Hi, I'm Rob from Rugby Cubs, here to promote inclusivity in rugby, promoting rugby for autistic children and additional needs children. We offer inclusive rugby activities for children on the autistic spectrum and additional needs.
Hey Rob, how are you? It's so nice to meet you. I know you're in Newry. Can you tell me what brought you on your own journey all the way to Newry?
As you can probably tell from the accent, I'm not from around these parts. So, born and raised in London, and met a lovely red-headed Belfast girl. We met, fell in love, and then moved over here in '97. And then basically then had two boys. They got involved in the rugby, in the local rugby community in Newry here. So obviously I've watched my boys come through the club. And then my youngest is still there, and he's just about to enter the second season of the under-18. So and yeah, I think he started there in the minis. So.
And you've coached kids at various ages for a long time in rugby. Did that experience motivate you to start rugby clubs? And what impact have you seen on the kids that have experienced rugby clubs?
My youngest son was, he would have learning needs, Richard. So he was actually statemented, which basically means, and he got sort of one-on-one assistance through the school, which helped him enormously. With the rugby and him starting to go to the club, then I would say that's helped him equally as much as the school has, because it's really brought on his confidence, his social skills. He's made friends there since he was in the under-12s that he still has there now, and which he will have for life. And he's now embedded in the local community, so which is absolutely brilliant. So I've seen him come on leaps and bounds through rugby, and that's why I feel so passionate, in starting up rugby clubs, that it can totally help children with additional needs because of the way it makes them feel, their confidence, gives them a sense of empowerment, a sense of inclusion, being part of something that they can do with full confidence.
Absolutely. Everyone needs to feel like they're part of something. And if some people watching this find it hard to reconcile the idea of rugby working for more challenging groups, what would you say to these people?
They don't know the game as they should, because rugby is all about inclusion. For me, it is anyway, because it doesn't matter what shape, size, or ability the child has, or anybody has, they can play the game. I'm very heavily involved, Richard, as well in Ulster in the women's and girls game, and I would actually coach the under-18s group in Newry anyway. So I'm very firmly in the camp of inclusion, and very much that the game can be played for absolutely everybody, regardless of shape, size, or ability, which is why I feel so strongly that rugby is the game that can be played by additional needs children.
And have you any plans to move your operation south? You need to bring us some of this joy, this beauty, and this amazing outlook on sports.
Yeah, we do actually, and I've actually connected with Sinead Ryan at Little Fitness, who was on the Dublin showcase, and which I watched with your good self there a few weeks ago, and you were tremendous, Richard. I'd just like to say. But anyway, so Sinead and I would obviously share a lot of shared values. So she's actually coming down tomorrow to give me a hand with my few classes that I do in the local area here in Australia. So she's going to come down. We're actually going to meet for the first time. So she's going to give me a hand, and then we're going to run a summer camp together in the same place there at the beginning of July. So it's going to be absolutely brilliant.
Yay! Social Impact Ireland's bringing you all together. I love it. And what was it like working with Social Impact Ireland?
Just the best experience. They are a tremendous group of people. And the guys who are on the spring incubator with me are just like, already we're going to be sort of friends for life. They're a tremendous bunch, and it's been the best experience, really has.
Oh, I'm so glad. That makes me so happy. And I'm so glad that you are teaming up with other people from Social Impact Ireland to work together. Birds of a feather flock together. There's strength in numbers. Thank you, Rob. I love chatting with you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. See you soon. Now I'd like to introduce our next social enterprise, On Her Own 2 Feet. On Her Own 2 Feet creates an all-inclusive support organisation for women who are at various stages of separation and divorce.
Did you know that 2/3 of separation and divorce applications in Ireland are by women? Would you be surprised to hear that there are 32,225 more separated and divorced women than men in Ireland? No one plans to become separated or divorced. When we get married on the happiest day of our lives, we plan to stay together till death us do part. So we are never prepared for a separation or divorce. It can be a silent struggle that is faced with isolation, disconnection, a loss of identity, a lack of confidence and self-worth. It affects our mental and physical health, our relationships, our work, our family and friends, our children, and our community. Yet there is no organisation that supports women through this journey in Ireland. But what if we could help and support each other? What if we could connect with women at all stages of separation and divorce? What if we could share our experiences, our stories and our knowledge with each other? And what if we were the ones that supported and helped each other through? On Her Own 2 Feet wants to help support and guide women through all stages of separation and divorce, within a community of other women on the exact same journey. Because you are not alone. We want to offer safe, non-judgmental spaces for women to listen to and share experiences. We want women to support other women on the exact same journey. We want to provide women access to the information and expert advice they need. We want to see each woman shape her own path and find her new beginning. So if a woman needs help navigating the legal and court system, we will be there. If a woman needs upskilling or training to get back into the workplace, we will be there. If a woman now needs help with financial planning for the future, we will be there. If a woman needs advice on building a co-parenting plan for her children, we will be there. Because whatever supports you need, we will be there for you. It's about encouraging women to grow and encouraging them to feel strong, being empowered and feeling independent, while at the same time being supported, building friendships and having a social outlet. We want every separated and divorced woman in Ireland to be able to stand on her own 2 feet. If you're experiencing separation or divorce, or perhaps you've already been through it and can share your experiences with others, then join our community.
Thanks so much, and best of luck on developing your social enterprise. Next, we're off to Cork to meet Erin Hislop from OMG Partnership. Erin. How are you? How are you doing? I'm so pleased to meet you, and I'm so excited to learn all about you. Just to start, can you tell us a little about your own journey to date?
I moved to Cork from Tralee when I was 18. I had my daughter soon after. I then trained as a beauty therapist when I was 25, and then I worked in the holistic spa trade until I was 29. But I myself returned to education and obtained a level 5 in healthcare soon after. It then led me on to apply to UCC, to the Occupational Science and Occupational Therapy Department. And I started my undergraduate degree at the age of 30. But during my own undergraduate experience, I worked for multiple UCC access and participation services, especially UCC Plus, which linked in with schools' outreach programs. There, it really triggered again and developed more of an interest in young people and the community. In my final year module, I focused in on the alternative educational setting where I wanted to explore what was going on, the people and the culture of alternative education. And that was in 2017. The findings were similar to my own experience growing up as a teenager, where I was an early school leaver myself. Now I'm an academic tutor for the UCC Skills Centre, where I provide support and guidance to students who are finding, college life challenging. I'm also a chairperson for a youth club in the city since 2019. And finally, I work part-time in a popular historical brew bar in the city. So the social side of that is great.
Wow, you do so much and you've done so much, and it's all taken you to where you are now. But what learnings have you taken from your journey that you're putting into this social enterprise?
Learnings is your start in life, your family, your home life doesn't define you and your future abilities. That not all life journey pursuits are linear. That moments in your life can change very quickly, but persistence and resilience is key.
Oh, amen. I feel the same way as you do. And how does the OMG partnership actually work as a social enterprise?
So the OMG partnership offers an additional safety net approach to young people between the ages of 14 and 22 who are no longer engaging in mainstream educational system. The OMG itself meets the young person at their current baseline. On your mark, get set, goals. The approach partners with the young person, their current life journey, and the existing support systems that they are engaging with or that they're not engaging with. The OMG's approach places the person at the center of their journey, giving them agency over their next stage life processes, their future planning, and access to opportunities within their community. For example, what is their meaningful interests, their life skills, job opportunities, further education. The OMG adopts a realistic, person-centered, goal-setting and inclusivity life journey map that is navigated by the young person with the full support and guidance of the OMG partnership along the way.
Oh, that's wonderful that you're helping young people the way you are. How does that actually help the person?
It places the young person right at the starting point. It builds self-efficacy, confidence, independent decision-making, ownership of choice and progression, resilience, a sense of belonging that they may not be feeling. It builds trust. It's bespoke to them whilst helping them to take their personal responsibilities for self-exploration for a brighter future. Richard, it's a proactive approach.
That's wonderful. And tell me, what would you say to your younger self if you were actually watching this interview? What would you say to yourself?
That there is support, help and guidance, even though you may not think there is. You also have the right to explore your life journey options, even though you may not think you do. Education, yes, it is important, but it may not have worked for you so far. But you have the right to explore what else is available to you within your community that you may not feel is out there and that may be out of your reach. Talk to that reliable and trustworthy adult in your life and get the conversation going and started. And the OMG partnership could be that approach for you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Can you tell me, what was it like working with Social Impact Ireland? How was the whole experience for you?
It was definitely a huge learning process for me. I kind of knew what to expect, but then I also didn't know what to expect. But the team have really helped me to explore and acknowledge that the problem within the society still today with young people progressing at whatever stage of life they're in, that it's still very complex, it's still very nuanced. And the SII team have been so supportive of me and the OMG partnership, and I'm so grateful. I'm very humbled.
Oh, you know something, and they'll continue to help you on your journey, and you deserve it. The work you're doing is amazing. I am thrilled to meet you, and thanks for sharing today, and the best of luck in your social enterprise. And next up, we're going to meet Dr. Anita McKeown and learn all about her social enterprise, Art Services Unincorporated. Hello, Dr. Anita. How are you? So nice to meet you. I have so many questions to learn about your social enterprise. First, I know it's focused on helping develop young people to realise their potential, but what is different about your approach?
Mainly, it's integrated. There's a lot of resources out there, particularly for within TY, that looks at maybe place-based or project or STEAM or different kind of skill sets, but they're still quite siloed. Our approach and the resources that we developed integrates all of that. The other thing as well is, to date, really, it's the only, certainly in Ireland, set of resources that is integrated, that has been built and developed and tested under research conditions and with teachers and learners.
Wow. And can I ask you, Anita, why does this matter so much to you? Why do you care so much about this?
I left school at 16. I was one who as a non-standard learner. School didn't really work for me. Also through my life, I've worked with informal education often, as well as formal, in prisons and community contexts. And more I could see that with a few sort of interventions and some mindfulness, that actually a lot more could achieve their potential. So we're coming at it from an inclusive perspective where all can reach their potential, as opposed to those that will achieve anyway.
And tell me about the transition year program you developed around this. How are you going to go with this program and work with the schools?
For the last 3 years, we've been working within a host school. And the first phase was where we tested ideas and lessons with students and teachers. We got their feedback about what worked, what didn't work. We iterated, we tested again. We also have developed them where you could have a whole project, or you can kind of pick and choose, like a menu from micro module to lesson plan. And then we've also delivered individual lessons and projects, both through short and 5-day intensives in other schools in Ireland.
And you also help the teachers to deliver this, don't you? You assist the teachers to deliver the program.
A lot of teachers, they do want to give young people a really interesting and exciting and purposeful transition year. We would talk to teachers because we saw they'd take on a project, and within a few weeks, sometimes they and the learners would be demotivated, and then it would feel, well, that doesn't work, so we're not going to do it. They would lose their confidence. So we've worked, as I said, we talked to them, we listened to them, they brought us in to help them develop, co-develop. We've also shared what we've developed and supported them to do that. And as we're also scaffolding their process, we slowly retreat. I mean, the aim is to make ourselves redundant.
I love that term, scaffolding. That makes total sense. You're building it from the ground up. But can you give me an example of the kind of projects that young people actually take on?
So with some of the intensives and individual students, we've done sort of ocean literacy with marine plastic waste. And then their projects would be developing ideas around, how we could keep that plastic out of landfill. One of the ideas was the insides of a slitter, because they're plastic. So why not reuse?
So it all has a social conscience. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, underpinning the resources is a very particular methodology that embeds social, environmental, and economic justice.
And how are you expanding the social enterprise? How do you intend for this to grow?
So at the moment, we've had some discussions with Kerry County Council to do a county-wide rollout in September. So working with all the TY coordinators in all the Kerry secondary schools. We're also aiming for a beta sort of regional and national programme. A lot of the proposed changes for the Leaving Cert, we've already tried and tested in some format. So we're kind of keen to kind of say, let us develop a much larger beta testing program with an independent evaluation that can show what's possible. This was one of the biggest issues that came out of recent reviews, both with the National Curriculum Assessment Review and the OECD review of that review. Everyone agrees that the current system needs to change to be fit for 21st century challenges.
I don't think it's working personally.
No, and it's been shown, the two reviews, one was teachers, students and staff, and then the review of the review was the UN observers. So everyone says we need to change it, but the biggest issue that was identified by the UN observers is no one has been able to show them something else that can be trusted. We're saying we've tested a lot of what is coming up as being proposed. So let's do a national test. You're not starting from scratch, because we've already done 3 years research with over 329 students, as well as teachers.
Back to the scaffolding again, you're building from the ground up. I love it, Anita. You are so special and what you're doing is so amazing, and I really appreciate you and the work you're doing, and I'm wishing you the best of luck in your future. Thank you so much. And next up, we're going to meet our next guest speaker. It's Lily Collison. Now, Lily comes from an entrepreneurial background, but more recently is an author and an activist. And she's fighting for inclusivity in the working world for people facing physical challenges. Over to you, Lily.
Hi, my name is Lily Collison, and thanks, Eamon, for inviting me to make this presentation. I wish each of you the best of luck with your enterprises. Eamon asked me to talk mainly on the true meaning of inclusivity from my perspective. And just to give you a little by way of background, I'm the parent of 3 adult sons, the youngest of whom has spastic diplegia. It's a type of cerebral palsy. It's mainly a mild to moderate physical disability without a cognitive impairment. And I have a science background and worked over my career mostly in the area of, mostly in education and in industry. My first book was about spastic diplegia, about the condition my son has, and I wrote it because there was very little available. When he was diagnosed, didn't even have an idea what the condition meant, and there was very little for families. So I wrote this book for parents of newly diagnosed children and those early years, but also for people themselves with the condition. So this book covers the lifespan of the condition. So if people are diagnosed, this gives them a good idea of how the condition develops and its management over the years. I then, this year, I co-wrote a book with Kerry Buckley. She's American, and she's senior advisor to the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So we co-wrote this book. This is only a sample, so the book will be out in August. This is just a sample. It's called Pure Grit, and it's stories of remarkable people living with physical disability. I obviously came at it from the background of having been the parent of child with, now an adult, with a physical disability, but she works with Paralympians, people who participate in the games who have a physical disability. She works with both Olympians and Paralympians, but the Paralympians are people who excel in sport but who have a physical disability. And various things made us realise that there was a need for a book on role models, and that's what this is. For this book, we interviewed 19 people across the globe. There were people who excelled in sport, in medicine, in business, the arts, politics, and more. They varied in age from 20 to 70 plus. And to give you an idea, from Ireland, we interviewed the former British ambassador who retired last year. He was the British ambassador to Ireland from 2016 to 2020, and he had cerebral palsy. It wasn't widely known, but he has become quite the role model for people with a physical disability. Like, he's had a very successful career despite or because of his physical disability. We also interviewed a Paralympian hopeful who is spina bifida. He's a swimmer and is just about to hear if he qualifies, and hopefully he does, for Tokyo. And just quickly add that by I'm not plugging these books, or I'm just mentioning the books, but it's not for personal gain. Any proceeds from the books go to research, because research in the area of disability is so underfunded. So any proceeds from either book goes to research. And a few points about disability and inclusion. First, disability is very common. It's a reality for 15% of the population across the lifespan. Like, the WHO estimate that there are 1 billion people worldwide with disability. And as one participant in Pure Grit put it, disability is nothing to fear, because most of us will be affected by it eventually, whether by accident, by ageing or illness. And participants gave us many insights on inclusivity. Like Jern Herman, one of the people we interviewed, and like there's a drawing included of an illustration of all the participants, but one of the people we interviewed for the book, Jern is a black dancer and writer based in New York. And he stated that growing up, he experienced far more discrimination for his disability than for his race, which is very interesting. That, he could compare, and discrimination on the basis of his disability, he experienced far more of it. Dr. Jan, an American neurologist, stated, the inaccessibility of most of the world's minds about what people with disability can and cannot do is often more limiting than the physical environment. That it's people's prejudice about what people with disability can do is often more a barrier than the actual physical environment. We all think about wheelchair accessibility, things like that, and oftentimes it's people's minds. Another participant stated, employment matters for people with disabilities for more than just financial reasons. Employment matters because people with disabilities are seeking the opportunity to achieve independence just like anyone else. We also want to fulfill our dreams. We want to get married. We want to have families. And we have the same aspirations as those without disabilities. There's some of the things one of the participants in the book pointed out. And, you might ask, okay, we wrote a book of about 19 people across the world who are very successful. These are role models. What's their secret sauce? Why were they successful? And like, some of the things we found was they found fields for themselves in which they could excel, be it in sport, medicine, activism, business, whatever. But they found fields that they could excel in. And for some, they themselves found role models who were important in their growing up. Perseverance is the one characteristic they all share. Perseverance. They stuck at it. So, like, pure grit, and that's why we came up with that title for the book. It was the one thing they all had in common. They weren't afraid of failure. In fact, they said they learned from failure. They weren't afraid to fail, and oftentimes lots of us are afraid to fail. They learned from failure. As one of them put it, she actually looks out for opportunities to fail because she learned from them. They're not overcoming disability or adversity. They're accommodating disability in their lives. all of them had supportive, be it parents, families, or even their community, like people who believed in them. And that was the one thing, like for each of the people, it was different, but they all had supportive people in their lives. And it was independent of family financial status, that varied. I hope I've given you a few things to think about. And as I say, best of luck with your own enterprises.
Thank you so much, Lily. That was so informative and inspiring stuff. And next we're going to the east of the country to meet our next participant, Tessa Davis of Aspire Productions. Hi Tessa, how are you? How are you doing? Are you well? Just to start off, I just want to know a little bit about your background in media production.
I started working in the industry, I think it was about 2014. I started as an intern. So, you know, just running around, doing all of the kind of grunt work. And then from there, it kind of progressed up through some of the levels, so trainee and assistant and coordinator and things like that. So I worked in production, mainly in the production department and in locations. And they're great places to work because you get just a bird's eye view of everything that's going on, and you get to work with every other department really closely. And so you get that kind of really satisfying teamwork vibe.
Oh, I love teamwork and I love media. We kind of have the same background, you and I, and we both work with Social Impact. What attracted you specifically to the role with Aspire Productions?
When I heard about Aspire Productions and that they were taking on this problem that, you know, the current structure doesn't suit everybody, and they were trying to find alternative routes into the industry for people on the autism spectrum, trying to offer employment. I could see that. I could see how that would be so necessary and so beneficial for people, and add to the diversity of the media industry as a whole.
And what unique challenges do people on the autism spectrum encounter in media production while working in media?
I would say, you know, a lack of practical training. So when you enter a trainee position for the first time, often you have very little idea of what will be expected of you, who's the right person to go to ask a particular question, you know, until you land on set that day. And it can be very intimidating and anxiety inducing for anybody, but especially for somebody on the autism spectrum. You know, communication and knowledge is power, you know, and I would say the other biggest obstacle is that even entering that industry, it's still very dependent on knowing somebody, making connections, you know, networking. And that can be very, very difficult for people on the autism spectrum. So we need better systems that will assess somebody based on their creativity, their talent, you know, their work ethic, you know, their merit, as opposed to their ability to network.
Absolutely. And how does Aspire Productions help them network? How do you put them in the right place at the right time?
So we might have a recruit come to us who technically is ready to enter their chosen field. They are ready to enter the industry, but they might struggle with interview processes or even self-promotion, writing their CV, getting themselves in the door. So we can offer them, you know, by working with us, they'll work on those social skills. They'll be working as part of a team. And similarly, we might have someone who's really, really great at self-promotion. They could network themselves into any job, but they want to develop their technical skills. So we kind of tailor it to every recruit that comes to us to match their personal progress.
That's amazing. And to any other media production companies viewing this, is there anything you would ask of them?
If you want to engage with this and you really, really want diversity in your company, in your production company, or on your crew, make it explicit. Let people know it's a safe place to come. And if somebody on your crew does disclose to you that they are autistic, just have an open dialogue. Ask them what small changes, and they are always very, very small changes, that could help them to really flourish in their role. And I think they will find that once they start engaging with this, they'll realize a lot of these small changes will actually benefit everyone and their whole production. And, you know, currently with the systems that I've mentioned for getting into the industry, what's happening is you're marginalizing a lot of people, but also the industry as a whole is missing out on some of the most talented and creative problem solvers that we have in our society.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I've worked with lots of people over the years, and you can't put everyone in the one box. Everyone is so different and all our minds are wired so differently. What has it been like working with Social Impact Ireland?
For me, it's been fantastic because I came from completely outside of the social enterprise world. I knew very little about I didn't know anybody else who ran a social enterprise. So I think for me, the thing I'm going to take away from it is that support system and other people that you can reach out to that are going through the same things, and can help you along the journey. Like, it's been fantastic.
Well, you're fantastic, and I'm so happy I got to meet you today, and I love what Aspire Productions are doing, and we're making the world more inclusive. It's incredible. You're incredible, and thank you so much for your time. I love talking to you. See you soon. And now we're going to go meet the next of our participants. It's Fiona Callan from Coaching to Be. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Fiona. How are you? So nice to meet you. I'm so excited to learn about what first brought you to coaching people.
My belief in people and how much they actually have inside of them. And sometimes all they need is a little bit of help to actually discover themselves and what they've got when they want to change something in their life. And I have an interest in empowering people to actually do that. I also believe that everybody has a right to a good quality of life, and that means being well and understanding oneself and being able to manage one's own life. So for many years I was involved in local development, and that was all about, on one hand, creating equal opportunities for people who were more excluded from things like mainstream services or education or training or job opportunities or whatever. And then importantly, on the other side, it was all about building people's skills and capacity so that they could actually take up on those opportunities that were there. And over the years, it always amazed me how much people really had inside of them and what they could actually do in terms of personally growing when you gave people just the time and the space and the support to actually do that.
It's all true. And what principles and values do you apply to what you do?
I have three principles driving my social enterprise, and that's around empowerment, around equality, and around impact. So empowerment in terms of helping people help themselves. And that actually leads to equality in terms of equality of participation, because you can have all the opportunities out there that you like, but if people aren't in a position to take up those opportunities and have the confidence to actually go after them, they can't equally participate. And then that leads to impact or equality of outcome. So if people have a chance to participate to their full extent, there's more chance of them having a equality of outcome at the other end of those initiatives that are out there.
And in your social enterprise, you specifically help people that are excluded from society. Can you give me some insight into who these groups are and the actual particular difficulties that they may face?
Being excluded can be because of where people live. It can be the place they live. It can be the rural areas they live in. It could be just who they are or their ethnic background or their own life circumstances. You can have people who have men, say, who have been long-term unemployed, haven't worked for many years, young people who haven't had a job left. And it's the cumulative impact of being more excluded and being out of what's happening in terms of the psychological effect. Then that means people don't have the motivation, their confidence are low, their self-worth is low. And it's dealing with that side of things as the first step to actually moving forward to where they want to go or make those changes in their life.
Wow, that's so beautiful. How does your coaching work to overcome these difficulties to help them make those changes?
Well, really, it's about giving them the space and the support. And the starting point is about people becoming self-aware and aware of themselves. And when they start getting to know themselves and who they really are, then they start to understand themselves better and know what they really want. And when people know what they really want, things start becoming more clear for them. And in that space, which happens over a period of time, not just once-off sessions, people in themselves start becoming more confident in themselves. They start looking at their self-worth, their self-belief, and it makes such a huge difference to them. They start becoming creative when they start to be in that relaxed space. They start seeing their strengths, their own skills, their capabilities, and they see possibilities that they might not have even considered before.
I need you to coach me. Can you give us an example or two of how impactful this can be for a person?
So I worked with one individual who had a really good career, but they totally lost their motivation. It wasn't doing anything for them anymore, and they'd no spark in it. So when we really looked at it, the huge impact on their life was their interpretation of their family and what that meant for them. And at one point in their life, after having a child, they realized that they were gay. So obviously that had a huge impact on the dynamic within their family, as in their parents, their brothers and the sisters. And where they were in life, their child had grown up, they were a teenager, they lived on their own, and their interpretation of a family, they really had to explore that. And when they understood to themselves in their own mind that families can be different, so my family, what I see for myself is something that I see slightly different than what I had originally. That motivated them into, first of all, being much more open about in terms of what they saw for themselves. Secondly, they decided to get more in touch with their family and spend more time with their parents and their brothers and their sisters. And suddenly they decided their job was great again, but they maybe didn't want to do it for the rest of their lives. So while they had their job, they were going to reskill themselves and look at something else as well.
That's a beautiful story. Different family, same love, right? So that is a really beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. And thank you for educating me all about your social enterprise. I really appreciate it. And I learned a lot, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much. And now it's time to meet our next social enterprise participant. It's Avril Allshire Howe of Forest Bathing, based in the lovely West Cork.
Hi, I'm Avril and I am one of the people involved in Forest Bathing West Cork and Cork. We offer visitors to our woodlands a 2-hour experience where they will benefit physically and mentally. It is simply a method of walking and gaining the maximum benefit, one sense after another, your sight, your hearing, your taste, your touch, your feeling. Forest bathing is a very personal experience, and you connect with the trees, allowing you time, silence and talk, gathering and being on your own. A forest bathing experience is a guided experience, allowing you to open your senses to and gain the maximum benefit from being amongst trees, using a method discovered in Japan, and it gives you benefits and relaxes you. And the benefits of what you will get from the trees, even unconsciously, can last for anything up to a month.
Hi Avril, how are you? I'm so happy to meet you. I've been really looking forward to learning all about forest bathing. First of all, how did you fall in love with nature that you decided to do this as a social enterprise?
Because nature is constant and yet ever changing. And when all around you is chaos, all you need to do is go out and have a look at a tree. It's not moving, but it's evolving, it's growing, it's home to so many insects. It's a comfort to actually know that tree is breathing in the carbon dioxide you're breathing out. It's breathing out the oxygen that you can take in. It will benefit you mentally and physically. And it has been proven in Japan and Korea in particular that those benefits can last for up to a month.
Oh, Avril, you're talking to a big tree hugger now. There's a lot of people loving trees, by the way, in this showcase today. Tell me, what is forest bathing exactly?
Every race has had a connection with trees because they were there. They were used for medicine. Don't forget, 60% of our medicines are derived from trees to a greater or lesser degree. They were used for food. They were used for keeping people warm, keeping people sheltered. So we've had a very long connection with trees. But it took the Japanese to realize that the benefit of being amongst trees led to a huge improvement in the mental and physical well-being of their population. And they have done immense research into how forest bathing can help people. But down to basics, forest bathing is a method to allow you to open your senses in an ordered fashion so that you're not overwhelmed and overawed by everything coming in on top of you.
Wow. And you have a wide range of entrepreneurial experience. Can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Sometimes I think entrepreneur is the wrong word. I'm an opportunist, and I loved organizing events. So I suppose that was the start of my entrepreneurial side, in a very safe way, organizing events and things like that. When I met my husband, he always wanted a bit of land. His background is printing and stationery. We found a small farm here in West Cork in Rosscarbery. That was 1997, and in 2000 we established Caherbeg Free Range Pork Limited. We won in 2016, we won the award for innovation and enterprise in the West Cork Farming Awards.
Congratulations.
And because of the pigs, people were coming to visit us. And you could feel people so tense when they were coming. You take them down through the pigs, around the trees, and bring them back. And they were almost so relaxed. And I wanted to research specifically trees and health. And I found forest bathing.
Wow, it's fascinating. What impact do you hope to achieve? I know your focus is very much on West Cork for now, but is this going to change in time? When am I going to go forest bathing? Are you going to come to my side?
What I want to do is I want us to be a centre of excellence. I am working with two more, and we are developing a code of practice, which is reviewed annually and throughout the year, making sure that we have all our requirements. For example, we're qualified in forest bathing guiding. So we're guides. We have outdoor first aid certificates. We have insurance. and we are trained in COVID-19 procedures under Fáilte Ireland. And if what we do here in Forest Bathing West Cork and Cork can be replicated, game ball.
Wow. I would love to try forest bathing. It sounds fascinating. I love nature and I need to get back to nature more. I just have one last question for you. What was it like to work with the amazing Social Impact Ireland?
I went in with one idea, which was bringing forest bathing to schools. That is still going to happen. But I realized we didn't have the pillars in place. And that is what Social Impact Ireland has done for me. There's also, I mean, apart from the lectures, which have been brilliant, I could not have done the course if it wasn't for being on Zoom. I work 6 days a week in our food business. I'm on the road a lot. So just organizing those 2 hours to be at home on Zoom, listening. But there's also the peer-to-peer relationships. I'm currently in a small group with 3 more, vastly different, diverse projects, but we are supporting each other. We're all able to come up with more ideas to help each other. And if I can help other people, that's what we're here for.
That's what it's all about. It's all about all of us coming together. 2 + 2 = 7 is my motto, Avril, because we all help each other and we all join forces, then we can create something bigger than the sum of our parts. I'm so happy for you. I loved meeting you. You're a wonderful lady and I hope I get to see you soon, and congratulations. I can't wait to go forest bathing. Now we're going to meet the next of our participants. It's Brendan Byrne from Fixes. Hey Brendan, how are you? I'm so pleased to meet you. I have loads of questions for you. First off, can you just tell us what brought you to this initiative first?
I derive my passion for health and food from my family's connections in food, farming, agribusiness, along with close family links to a member of the family was a founder of the Matter Private. So another factor was my research and my podcast interviews with farmers, food producers, artisans, and people knowledgeable about food and health, discussing the benefits of wholesome food and its links to human health. More recently, another major key factor was the work of the Irish Heart Disease Awareness, a charity, whose mission was the promotion of the CAC scan, which is a cardiac imaging of the heart. Seemingly, you don't know your risk for heart disease unless you have this CAC scan.
Yeah, I want to know, if I'm going to have heart disease, everyone should know that, right? What is the Know Your Score about?
Know Your Score, yeah, that's what attracted me. So basically, Know Your Score essentially means know your risk. And it was used for the first time in the Extra Time movie, which was funded by the Irish Heart Disease Awareness. It was premiered last year. The All-Ireland final teams of 91 underwent heart scanning in this unique documentary. It's definitely worth having a look at. And the ideal score for calcium plaque in your arteries is, of course, 0. And the Down team captain, Paddy O'Rourke, was left facing a battle as his CAC result caused a huge concern. It was in excess of 1,200, which was a wow, which was really advanced arteriosclerosis. In other words, in common man's language, hardening of the arteries or heart disease.
Wow, that's scary. And why is real food so important in this?
Real food is important because it's focused on nutrient-dense, wholesome food at one end of the spectrum. And for example, eggs, I've only discovered recently, I should have known this, but they contain about 13 grams of protein and other nutrients as well. And so that's a nutrient-dense food. So that's at one end of the spectrum. At the other end, we have ultra-processed, refined carbs or high sugars, which help drive insulin resistance, which is at the core of our chronic disease epidemic of heart disease, obesity, and type 2 diabetes.
I eat a lot of eggs, actually. I have a very sensible diet. Your focus is initially on the farming and rural audiences first. Why these particularly? Why these audiences?
Well, basically, it was a natural place to build out from. First of all, it was where I had the network. And, you know, if you have farmers that contribute to the production of food and artisans who sell their product direct to consumers. And of course, I'm engaging with the ICA as well, Irish Country Women's Association, who love cooking. So it was a natural place to build from. And so it's by establishing that in the farming and rural communities, it gives credence to the wider audience.
And how do you reach your audience? Speaking about your audience, how do you actually reach your chosen audience for your social enterprise?
You know, everybody's gone on Zoom now. So believe it or not, that's how, yeah. And I would have a network within farming, you know. And the good thing is, look, it's with an organisation that's throughout all the counties nearly, you know, either a farming or Irish Cattle and Sheep Association, you know, or the ICA in Wexford here, you know. So look, that was how I reached out.
And what do you hope to achieve in the coming year? And how does this actually work as a social enterprise?
Well, it's again, it's a real food movement that helps fix chronic disease, okay, by eating real food and knowing your score. You know, at the end of the day, it's going to be a community platform that we're building. So which will publicize the stories, you know, the before and after, a space where, you know, where you can build social media from. Again, our biggest job will be to get the story out. As Ralph Jensen said, stories are more important than products. And it's getting the story out of the good health, of good food, and the difference it makes.
A community platform, I absolutely love it. This is great. I'm all about a healthier body and a healthier and longer life. So I take my hat off to you. Thank you so much, Brendan, for your time. And hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up soon. Thank you and best of luck in your social enterprise. And now it's off to the woods we go to meet the Galvin brothers, who I am proud to call my friends. We're going to learn all about their amazing social enterprise, Living Woodlands.
Hello, my name is Colm.
And my name is John.
We co-founded a social enterprise called Living Woodlands.
We want to transform existing forestry plantations into complex natural woodlands for the benefit of all.
The forestry plantation system in Ireland, because of how the trees are planted and then all cut down, causes a number of major problems. As strange as it sounds, Irish forestry system now gives off more carbon than it absorbs. Also, Ireland is suffering from a biodiversity crisis, and the current system is making this worse. We have so few natural woodlands in Ireland, we've forgotten how important the health and well-being benefits are for us. And we believe this is a resource that should be available to everyone.
We transform existing forestry plantations like this one into complex natural woodlands over time and open them up for the benefit of everyone. We use a close-to-nature forestry system guided by an ecological plan. We never clear fell the trees, and the carbon that's stored beneath the forest is never released. Instead, we carefully thin the densely planted rows of trees, allowing more sunlight onto the forest floor. In turn, this increases biodiversity, allowing more native trees, plants and animals to flourish. And we actively involve people in the process, creating thriving community spaces.
So we believe it is essential for people to reclaim their agency. We want to offer people a practical way of making a difference by helping to transform and create natural woodlands where we can all reconnect with nature.
John and Colm, my beautiful friends, I'm so glad to see you here today and talk to you about your social enterprise. Two brothers working on a social enterprise, and I know you're using impact investment to restore Ireland's lost woodlands. How did all that come about?
We've always had a love of, you know, the outdoors and the natural environment. And what we noticed is hiking and walking in the outdoors, that the places we really love to go to, like natural woodlands, there's so few of them in Ireland. And instead we end up wandering through these kind of dark, masses of green coniferous forestry. So we decided, right, let's stop talking about this and let's do something about it. So that led us to this idea of living woodlands. How can we, do something about this problem? So there's lots of people out there planting native trees on greenfield sites, and that's amazing. But these coniferous forests, they're not going away, these plantations. So how can we change them? How can we, as you said, use impact money to change them into woodlands where people, communities can access them? And we believe we found a way.
Wow, I'm friends with you guys years. I had no idea you were doing this. I didn't even realize that trees and forests are planted a certain way. Why is your approach so different to others?
We feel our approach is different because we're tackling a problem that isn't going away in Ireland, the existence of these commercial forestry plantations. And the standard commercial approach in Ireland, which accounts for, it's around 95% of the trees planted in Ireland, it just consists of planting these long rows of tightly packed coniferous trees. You let them grow for 35 years, and then you cut them all down, you clear fell them all at once, and then you begin the process again immediately. We have another approach. We use close to nature forestry. And in close to nature, this system, you never clear fell. Instead, you carefully thin certain trees to allow more light into the forest. This allows natural regeneration to occur. And then through that and enrichment planting, you get a more diverse range of trees. This increases biodiversity. There are more animals, more birds, more plants. And also this system is far more effective at storing carbon long term.
Wow, this is wild. You're blowing my mind here. Where did the idea originate from? Where did you guys come up with this idea?
Obviously, the forestry industry is really important. Timber is essential, but we started to wonder whether there was another way of doing forestry. And it turns out there is. So it's not even that revolutionary an idea outside of Ireland. Close to nature forestry systems have been used around Europe for many decades, very successfully. So we just spent the past year and a half just doing lots of research about how it works in other countries and what it might look like in Ireland.
Well, this is so fascinating because we take trees and forests for granted. I never think how trees are even planted. Tell me, how does the community benefit from this?
We do. We take it for granted, when we're in forests, how amazing they are. And part of the problem is in Ireland is that we've so little access to natural woodlands. We've almost forgotten how important they are. Like there's so much scientific data showing the benefits they are for us as individuals, emotionally, physically, mentally. And we believe like this should be a resource available for everyone, a place where people can reconnect and regenerate in nature. So what we aim to do is to take these existing plantations and transform them into more natural woodlands and involve the community in that process. Things like maybe permaculture projects. You could have like fruit or orchards or allotments. Also maybe agroforestry projects. Wow. Even education offerings and things like this.
Wow, this is amazing, guys. When you succeed, what will a future forest look like in comparison to what we actually see today?
Well, I suppose in terms of the community, then you'd see these formerly dark, inaccessible plantations opened up as kind of vibrant community spaces where people can come together and undertake different types of projects. That could be anything from, as Colin was talking about there, community allotments to grow fruit and veggies, fruit orchards, forest schools. The list is sort of endless. And then ultimately, these spaces become a place for people to come and reconnect with the living world, with nature. That's the goal.
Wow, what an amazing goal. Guys, I'm so proud of both of you. I'm so proud to call you my friends. I had no idea you were doing any of this. You kept it well hidden until your time to launch it, and it is brilliant, and I'm rooting for you. Excuse the pun. I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon. And now it's time to go to my hometown, Limerick, to meet Adele Ryan from Community Natural Health and Educate Ireland. Hi Adele, how are you? I'm so pleased to meet you. I know we're both in Limerick, so I'm sure I'm going to meet you in the flesh soon. But first of all, I just want to learn a little about your own background and your own specialist history, specifically around Chinese medicine.
Hi, how are you? Well, just to say first that it was modern medicine that saved my life, and it's Chinese medicine that gave me back my quality of life. That's what led me to studying Chinese medicine. So I have been practicing in Limerick City for 11 years. I had my own clinics, and I've worked with other practitioners as well in Limerick City. So I started studying in 2005. I did a 4-year course in Cork, and that included medical science, clinical obs, prescriptionology, herbology, tuina, acupuncture, cupping, and moxa. However, I went on to go to a specialised college then for orthopedics and tuina for an extra 3 years, which led me to China. So I worked on the orthopedic wards in China.
And how does it all work? And what services are available to local communities? I know there's a really big group of you working together to make all this accessible to people.
So if they had spinal pain, if they had sciatic pain, I would be hands-on there. They'd be getting their acupuncture. However, we treat patients globally. So they might have a separation issue. They might have a bit of bullying at work. They might have a stressful job. They might have a bit of abuse, a bit of trauma, a bit of childhood trauma. So that's where I bring in the guys. So they get 3 or 4 of us in the space of an hour to help them. I can also send them off to counselling in the corner, send them off to grief therapy in the corner. And that's how it works. So on average, people were donating about €25 because we're donation voluntary based in the clinics for €250 worth of care plus.
Wow.
I've never refused anyone treatment based on cost. So I would work on a sliding rate. So I see what's needed in Limerick, and I've always tried to look after the people in Limerick.
Oh, and the range of services you offer is amazing. And I love that you don't turn people away. What impact do you see this having? What have you seen the results of your work?
I see patients coming in on average 6 to 8 sessions, and their pain is done, gone. You know, we want to take a bit of pressure off the surgical side of the HSE as well. We want to put supports in place for GPs around chronic pain. Our patients are long-term chronic, the worst of the worst. Very hard for a GP to deal with that alone, very hard for a physio to deal with that alone. And can doctors treat a separation? No. So we want to help support all of them. And for people, we can take 12 people an hour. We run 1 day a week in Limerick City. So we can hit a lot of people, and we can hit them en masse and help them with their lives. We have a clinic that's based in Limerick City. We also have another clinic in the main sheds in Ennis on the way, and we have another clinic in Neenah on the way. So we're tackling the Midwest. So we're Clare, Tip, and Limerick.
Wow, that's the whole Midwest. That's amazing. So admirable. Now, your social enterprise not only provides treatments, but it runs educational programs as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about the educational programs?
So we have our community clinics. So we treat people there, but we also need to teach people, empower them, give them our medicine so that they have themselves.
Yeah.
So we give them our knowledge. So we start off with the men's sheds. We have 70 there that need our programs. We take the coordinators as well. So we teach them. And then we educate doctors. We have seminars there. And we have corporates then in the end. And that's a 3-year plan. Now, I also have a college on the way, because a lot of people would like to study what we do. A lot of people are interested. That we have a lot of carers out there, and they would like our medicine as well. But because colleges are quite expensive and quality there, we need to increase as well with regards to natural medicine. So we have an association as well on the way. So I would like very much for people to train in this and be able to bring it out into their communities and help their family, their friends, their people.
Wow, Adele, you're like Wonder Woman. Can't keep up with you.
We have a good bit done. We have a 6-month pilot program. I have serious contacts in place from business to medical. So we have big business guys, and we have consultants, and we have doctors, and they're all looking at us for help as well.
Wow, Adele, listen, if I can help you in any way, promote your social enterprise in Limerick, I would be really honoured to. Honestly, what you're doing is fantastic, and I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for helping the people of Limerick. It's amazing, and I take my hat off to you, and I'm going to see you soon. Thank you. Thank you, Adele. You are doing Limerick proud, and a massive shout out to all your amazing team. Now, last but not least, we're meeting Jamie, Craig, and Dara behind the amazing social enterprise, the Ability Board.
Hi, my name is Craig, and I would like to tell you what it's really like to find a job when you have an intellectual disability. Before we start, I just want you to know that I don't like using the words intellectual disabilities. I prefer to use different abilities, so from now on I will be using this term. Myself and Dara applied for lots of jobs together. When I finally got my first interview, I was very excited. We prepared for this for days, and I felt confident before I went into the interview. It was going great until I mentioned the fact that I had a job coach. They asked me what a job coach was. I told them they help people with disabilities find employment, and I knew straight away they did not want me to work there or even give me a chance. I was really upset because of this. I felt like a fool. I said to Dara, do I even have the confidence or heart to go to another interview because of getting denied and thinking no one would ever want me? I thought to myself I would be no good ever. It took a lot of work to pick me back up from the anxiety I was feeling about my future. I just thought I was useless and I'd never be anything. After a while, Dara encouraged me to get involved in advocacy. I'm now the first ever president of the Ability Board. The election campaign really changed my life for the better. It was such an exciting time. It made me feel so powerful and important. The day of the election is one that I'll never forget. I have learnt now that having a disability is nothing to be ashamed of. I have an invisible disability, and I always found it hard when it came to the end of an application and the company asks you to tick a box if you have a disability. I never knew what the right thing to do was. Would they ever accept me if I ticked yes? Would they even meet me to give me a chance? Now I just always tick yes. I don't want to work for a company who wouldn't interview someone with a disability.
Hi, my name is Jamie, and I'm a proud member of the Ability Board. I really want you to understand how important having a job is. It's not just about money. Having a job is part of who we are. When we are meeting people for the first time, it is one of the first questions we are asked. You probably don't understand what it is like to have people look at you and think that you won't be any good at anything. that's how people see me all the time. I am used to it now, but that doesn't mean that I still don't get upset by it. If we get the business up and running, 10 people with different ability will get very sexy jobs. Those jobs will be very important because we will be making sure that other people with different ability will have equality when they apply for a job.
Hi guys, it's so nice to meet all of you. Welcome. First of all, I just want to ask, who are the Ability Board, just for all our viewers?
The idea for the Ability Board grew from the experiences of the Job Seekers and Ability at Work Hope Foundation. Ability at Work is a dedicated supported employment service which aims to bring young people with intellectual disabilities and/or autism closer to the labour market. The Ability Board is made up of 10 participants from Ability at Work, with me in the background coordinating. The initial plan was that they would be an advocacy group who would be involved in decision making in Ability at Work. It all began at the end of January 2020, when our participants each began a campaign trail for a place on this board. They all made really powerful speeches about the barriers people with different abilities face when finding employment. In March 2020, we held the official elections. Everyone cast a vote to elect a president, a vice president, and a chairperson of the very first Ability Board. The board has since expanded to include 7 more committee members. This democratically elected Ability Board are preparing to be the voices for people with different abilities in Ireland through a social enterprise.
Oh, Dara, that's lovely. Everyone needs someone to be a voice for them. How are the Ability Board going to make money, though, as a social enterprise?
The Ability Board want to filter information to the CEOs and decision makers of large companies who can change and influence the recruitment culture. We believe we can transform the current recruitment practices by having the Ability Board become part of interview panels in Irish companies. We also want to deliver an ability awareness package to Cork companies with the support of Ability at Work staff. There's little point in offering disability awareness training if you've no experience of these barriers in life. The board would be available as a consultation service to companies, reviewing job adverts before they are published, ensuring that the language and layout is acceptable and inclusive to everyone. Finally, the Ability Board want to introduce easy to read so that it becomes standard practice for use in businesses, public places and tourism. Easy to read documents are made up of short, simple sentences that communicate the most important messages you need to get across. These are usually accompanied by pictures that will aid understanding.
Oh, this is so beautiful. And why does inclusion matter so much? I know we all want to be included. Why does inclusion matter so much to you guys?
Inclusion only matters when you are not included. Everyone talk about inclusion, but unless you have experienced this inclusion, you'll never really know how important it is. That is why we think it's so important, because we know what it's like to be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I know what it's like to be on the outside looking in, actually. What about you, Dara?
I was just going to say it matters even more now because of the global pandemic. Diverse representation took a notable step backwards during the last 2 recessions, and employment equality is at a real risk of becoming a casualty of the COVID-19 crisis. Diversity and inclusion are not just important to individuals. Diverse and inclusive workplaces earn deeper trust and more commitment from their employees. Research has shown that it's even associated with improved financial performance, so it's a win-win for everyone.
And what about you, Craig?
The aftermath of the pandemic will make it hard for everyone trying to find a job, but especially for people with different abilities, usually because we will be forgotten about.
And can you explain what being inclusive actually means? What does it truly mean?
Sometimes people think they are being inclusive, but they're not really. They think inclusive, it should be united to people with different ability, but in more than that, we want to be treated as equals.
Everybody wants to be treated equally. And Craig, can you explain what being inclusive truly means to you as an individual?
Being inclusive isn't just a word, and it's more than putting a wheelchair ramp into a building. To truly be inclusive, you need to include everyone. You need to listen to the people who are fighting for equality. Sometimes I feel people are hearing but not actually listening. Listen to us, because we know what it's like to be discriminated against. We know what it's like to be treated differently, and we are trying to help you be more inclusive.
Yeah, I know what it's like to be discriminated against and treated differently as a member of the LGBTQ community. Now, if someone was listening to this and wants to engage with you guys, what can they do to engage?
If you're passionate about making your company more inclusive and diverse, you can contact the Ability Board through Ability at Work social media pages. You might be a large business who wants to make your recruitment practices more inclusive, or even a small business interested in pledging jobs. Either way, we'd be very happy to talk to you.
And what was it like for each one of you to work with Social Impact Ireland? How has it changed your lives and changed the direction of your social enterprise?
I found it a great experience to learn about different enterprise, like what they do and stuff. Like a great opportunity for people.
Just to relate there with Jamie, it brought a lot of us together even more, made us a stronger team. It really boosted my confidence even,
We absolutely loved it. I loved it. We started every Monday. We had for a while we had a class, and it was just you'd never have the Sunday blues, because you'd be going in on Monday and seeing everybody, and it was just so interesting. It never felt like hard work.
Oh, guys, it was so lovely to meet you, and you're the last of our participants today. And you're absolutely wonderful. I don't want to say we saved the best for last, because you've all been amazing, but thank you for educating me today, and thank you for discussing inclusivity. I'm sending love to each and every one of you. Thank you. And now we're going to hear a final few words from Pauline Gannon, co-founder of Social Impact Ireland.
Thank you, Richard. And there you have it. We are now at the end of our spring incubator for 2021. We are absolutely delighted to be here and to have supported all the social entrepreneurs and the businesses that you have seen today. It's been an incredible journey for all of us at Social Impact Ireland, but also all of the participants as well. I would just want to give special thanks to our guest speakers, to Barry and Lily. Thank you for sharing your experiences around inclusiveness. And also a very special thanks to the whole team in Social Impact Ireland, and to everybody who supports us. All of those partnerships, collaborations, everybody out there that really helps us to be the best that we can be in the work that we do. For the participants, it's been an incredible journey to date, but as we have drummed in from day one, this is not the end. It really is just the beginning. And you have our ongoing support in whatever way that you need, that helps you to grow, to scale and develop your businesses, but also individually as social entrepreneurs. Thank you to Richard for keeping it all together and pulling it all together and helping us to showcase the best of ourselves in an event like this. Of course, we have the tech team in the background as well, who really does a lot of editing to give you all the best experience that you could have this afternoon. So as we wind down for the summer, I think we all deserve a bit of a break. I think that we've had an incredible year that has many challenges, but I hope that you've been inspired today. And I think inspired is the word that comes to mind. Inspired to live your best life, to be inclusive in all of the decisions that you make and how you live your life. But more importantly, support social enterprises so that they can continue to do the amazing work that we have seen here this afternoon. Support them by sharing on social media, as well as the business supports, the funding supports, and the policy supports at government level. We all have a role to play in creating that more inclusive society that we all want to see, not just now, but in the future. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much, Pauline, for those kind words. And I just want to say to each and every one of our participants, I am so honoured that I got to spend time with each and every one of you, that I got to learn all about your social enterprises. You truly inspired me, you truly motivated me to make our society a more inclusive place for all. I want to congratulate each and every one of you. This is Richard Lynch, and you have been watching the Social Impact Ireland Business for Social Impact Incubator Spring Showcase. We'll see you soon.